The pre-flight procedure is normally done by the captain and the first officer and is an uncoordinated procedure. However, it can be done by the other pilot if required, for example, if a pilot is running late. Captains must ensure that they know the pre-flight procedure first officer to allow them to operate from the right-hand seat. It's important to understand that the pre-flight procedure defines areas of responsibility. An area of responsibility is those areas of the flight deck where a specific pilot takes action. So, for example, the overhead panel is always the first officer's responsibility on the ground and the pilot monitoring's responsibility in flight. The MCP is the captain's responsibility on the ground and pilot flying's in flight. The aft aisle stand is largely the first officer's responsibility on the ground and pilot monitoring's in flight. This means that even items that might be considered as minor, such as lights, flight deck access, interphone calls from the cabin and so on, should all be actioned in flight by the pilot monitoring. There are some occasions when we need to be pragmatic and use common sense and allow the pilot flying to operate these when pilot monitoring is engaged in another activity. However, none of this should detract from the pilot flying's primary role of flying the aeroplane. In flight, areas of responsibility, combined with applying procedures in the way they are laid down in the OMB, allows the pilots to operate in a way that has one pilot taking action with the other pilot monitoring that action. This is the way we mitigate error and omission. If there's no temperature-sensitive cargo in the forward hold, the FCAC should be off. When temperature-sensitive cargo is loaded in the forward hold, select the temperature to that shown on the cargo documents. If a temperature range is not shown, select 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. It's worth reminding ourselves that the FCAC is inoperative. Temperature-sensitive cargo may still be carried in the forward hold. Also, the handling agent may decide to load temperature-sensitive cargo in the aft hold. It's worth remembering that the cargo holds are able to carry a variety of ULDs. On our route network, LD3s and PMC pallets are most commonly used. However, there have been several occasions where we've needed to use LD8s, and this is acceptable. Have a look at the OMB Volume 1 loading chapter to remind yourself of the various loading configurations. Prior to engine start, the air conditioning packs only run when electrical power from the APU is established. Oxygen testing has been abbreviated now that the flight deck oxygen is checked during the preliminary pre-flight procedure. During the flight instrument check, the maximum allowable difference between the captain's and first officer's altitude displays is checked, which also complies with the check for RVSM operations in the aeroplane limitations. The weather radar systems are used alternately on a sector basis to even out wear on the systems as a result of a Boeing recommendation. There is a warning not to put objects between the seat and the aisle stand. This includes rubbish bags which should be hung on the outboard side of the seat. It's worth remembering that a pilot and an engineer have injured themselves by inadvertently activating the electric seat controls, so make sure that seatbelt straps are not left hanging over the sides of the seats and remind yourselves where the power switch is, just in case. Fuel control switches are worth a mention, as responsibility for these changes in a slightly different way. During pre-flight and when stationary, they are the captain's responsibility. However, we often start engines whilst the aeroplane is being pushed back. Using the normal philosophy, this would mean that the responsibility for them should change to the first officer. However, Boeing assigns the responsibility to the captain in the engine start procedure. The pre-flight procedure finishes with the pre-flight checklist. Remember that if the barometric reference is inches, then inches should be appended to the altimeter setting. For example, 30.04 inches. Next time we'll look at the before start procedure, including briefings, and the engine start procedure. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and I hope that you're all keeping well.